Good morning. Welcome to this meeting of the local review body of the 16th of January 2019. I can confirm that the meeting has been properly called and is quorate. I would first ask members to appoint a chairman for this meeting. Okay.
I would propose that Councillor John Martin chairs the meeting.
I would second that.
John?
By acclaim.
So we have the Sederunt and apologies, please.
Thanks, Chair. We have 5 members present.
Is there any declarations of interest? No. Number 4 on the agenda is 1 Old Union Street, Dumfries, refusal of planning permission for installation of 11 replacement windows with UPVC windows on the front elevation and a replacement timber window on the rear elevation. Number 18/0091/FUL. Is that pertinent, this one, is it? Right. Can I just let Robert? Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. Before you proceed with this matter, and the clerk will go through the notes with you for it, there are 2 matters to note. Firstly, we have at the desk a picture of a material sample. There's 6 copies of this that can be circulated. It was part of the submission on the 25th of October. And at the time of the submission, it was considered that this was not in front of the appointed officer when a decision was taken, as there was no record of it on our case file as it was then. However, it's since been made clear to me that it was actually in front of the appointed officer when the decision was taken, that's the sample, and later returned to the applicant only to be resubmitted in October. So, as I've explained, a photograph was taken of the submitted sample at that time, and I'm happy for that to be circulated amongst members. The originally submitted sample cannot be found, and I've spoken to the applicant about this. I know they aren't happy that the original sample cannot be found to circulate around today, but I'm afraid that this is the best I can do with the circumstances. It was very much like timber with a matte finish on it as well. I can confirm that from having seen it. Now hopefully the picture will show that. The second issue is a decision on the parallel listed building consent appeal at this address was received yesterday, very short notice, and that decision was taken on behalf of the Scottish Government by their Planning and Environmental Appeals Division. We're in this slightly anomalous position because of the legislation that deemed planning permission refusals come to the local review body even if they're relating to listed buildings, but listed building consent appeals in the same circumstance are determined by the Scottish Government. So, in summary, my recommendation, Chair, and this is entirely at your own discretion, would be to adjourn for 15 minutes or so, consider both the hard copies of the photographs of the submitted sample and the listed building appeal decision before reconvening to consider best how to proceed with this case. But that's obviously at your own discretion, Chair.
Members quite happy? Oh. Yep. Has everybody had time to go through them? Or any extra time? We all right? Right. Rachel, can I ask you to read out the clerk's notes?
Thank you, Chair. So I can confirm that there are 2 notices of review for consideration at this meeting, and item 4, you've just been circulated additional information. You also have the notice of review and related documents, the report on handling and related correspondence, observations of the appointed officer on the applicant's notice of review and further comments from interested parties, comments of the applicant on observations of the appointed officer and further comments from interested parties, planning application form, associated plans and support and information, the decision letter from Dumfries and Galloway Council, relevant extracts from the Dumfries and Galloway Local Development Plan and photos of the application site. The grounds for refusal are that the proposed windows are contrary to Dumfries and Galloway Local Development Plan policies HE1 and HE2 on the grounds that the use of modern UPVC materials, along with the detailing and design, are unsympathetic and damaging to the historic character and appearance of the listed building and conservation area and do not contribute to the building's listing. The applicant has requested that the review be dealt with on the basis of 1 or more hearing sessions and by means of an inspection of the land which is the subject of this review. The grounds stated in the notice of review in summary are: 1. That the building is not listed. 2. None of the windows on the High Street elevation are the originals, and most of them were installed before the apparent listing date. Most are now rotten beyond repair. It is proposed to replace them all with matte wood grain effect UPVC windows of the same design and dimensions as the existing windows. 3.4.13 of the report on handling is misleading and suggests a misunderstanding of the facts. 4. They disagree that the proposal would cause damage to the historic character and appearance of the building and conservation area. It is not proposed to replace any windows of historic significance or even of the same type as the original windows. 5. The proposal would not damage the appearance or character of the building or building block. The proposal would instead improve the appearance of the building. 6. The proposal would not cause damage to the historic character and appearance of the conservation area. How can the proposed windows, which are effectively the same as the current design and appearance of those currently in situ, possibly be regarded as damaging to the character or appearance of this conservation area? 7. The assessment of the case seems to dismiss the importance of the Dumfries and Galloway Local Development Plan objective of energy conservation and of encouraging the use of upper floors in town centres for residential purpose. UPVC windows are simpler to open and safer. The decision taken also makes the use of upper floors within the town centre financially non-viable, as the higher cost of instalment of timber windows would render the house long-term non-viable as a rental property, particularly with the continued use of regular maintenance. 8. The reference to the approach of the Council for proposals for replacement windows as set out at 4.5 of the report on handling is confusing. There is much evidence of the approach in conservation areas actually being more relaxed than this. The Council's approach appears to be the ideal vision for the appearance of the area rather than what is actually agreed. 9. Changes to many ground floor shops in the High Street, often listed buildings, will have been permitted to allow contemporary and visible use. Surely the town centre would recover if equivalent changes were allowed to upper floors to allow them to become affordable and functional housing. Warm, draft-free windows which do not rattle, are reasonably soundproof, low maintenance, possible to clean without scaffolding, easy to open and safe. And 10. UPVC is not specifically prohibited within planning policies. The Local Development Plan Supplementary Guidance under the title Principles for Development in the Historic Environment has a summary table of the key principles stating materials, proposals for the use of new materials or the treatment of existing will be supported where it is demonstrated that there will be no significant long-term detriment to existing fabric and character of the building or place. You also have further comments from interested parties, a list of the development plan policies. So the main issues for the local review body to consider is, does the proposal conform with the relevant development plan policies? In particular, would the proposed windows be contrary to the terms of local development plan policies HE1 and HE2? Specifically, would the proposed windows, by virtue of their detailing design and use of modern UPVC materials, be unsympathetic and damaging to the historic character of the building? Would the proposed windows be unsympathetic and damaging to the appearance of the building? Would the proposed windows be unsympathetic and damaging to the historic character and appearance of the conservation area? Would the proposed windows fail to contribute to the building's listing? How does the proposal relate to the guidance set out in the Dumfries Conservation Area Character Appraisal and the Historic Built Environment Supplementary Guidance, both of which form part of the adopted development plan? If the proposal is considered to represent a departure from the terms of the relevant development plan policies, are there any material considerations which would indicate that planning permission should be granted as an exception to policy? How much weight should be given to alternative decisions cited by the applicant, the build legacy of previous windows installed in the listed buildings, and/or the conservation and other alterations? how much weight should be given to viability and the desire for energy efficiency and upper storey residential accommodation within the town centre. So having outlined the documents within members' papers, it now falls to the local review body to determine whether it has sufficient information to consider the review. It is confirmed that no representations from any party will be heard today. The options available to the local review body for this and the following case today are that it can decide it has sufficient information before it to enable it to determine the review today, request further information in the form of written representations. The local review body will require to state precisely the information it is seeking and who must provide it, resolve to hold a hearing, again specifying who will be invited to speak and on what matters, or resolve to hold a site visit, accompanied or unaccompanied. This can be done in conjunction with any of the above, but would obviously not allow a decision to be made today. If the local review body resolves that it has sufficient information and that no further procedure is required, the local review body has the powers to uphold, reverse or vary a determination. The decision notice will include a statement of the terms in which the planning authority has decided the case reviewed. A planning advisor is present at your meeting. He is here to assist for both items. It is confirmed that he has not had any involvement in the case and was not the case officer or the appointed officer for either applications. He is purely here to provide independent advice as needed on matters of planning policy, law or process. So if members are clear and no further clarification is required, I'll ask the Chairman now to lead the debate in the first instance, to lead the local review body through the agenda papers together and decide if it has sufficient information before it to make a determination today.
Thanks, Tracy. Ian?
Chairman, I just think on that last point, do we need any further information, so on and so forth, before we proceed? Because we've been given this, we haven't discussed it yet. I don't think I've come across this circumstance myself. So in real terms, we've got a listed consent. So there's consent already there. The questions went through my mind when I've read that. Has the reporter done her job already? Has she done our job? Maybe not. But ultimately, if there's a consent, so there's two scenarios in real terms. If this committee today was to leave the decision as was, then there's a conflict, you think, with the DPA or the consent that's there, or if it was to allow it or uphold the review. I see them as being two possible scenarios today. So where does that, with this just being put in as now, where does that leave the committee today in regards to process? What should we be doing?
Chair, I'm happy to advise that the situation today is slightly unusual in the sense that you had fresh information given to you on the day of the meeting and not in advance. With the first item, the sample, it wasn't obvious when it came in that that was in front of the appointed officer. As soon as we realised that the sample was in front of the appointed officer, we found a way to make sure that you could take that into account today. And I think you're obviously satisfied with what you've seen, I think, in that regard, but I mean, you'll come on to that. So that is unusual. Normally, if it's clear that that was in front of the appointed officer, it's within the papers. So that's the reason why it was introduced late on, because it should have been in the papers originally, and we recognise that. The second item, again, it would be remiss of us not to advise you of circumstances as they prevail today with the listed building consent appeal. Again, the timing's very neat. It's only one day before you convene that you've got the decision on the listed building consent. That's a separate appeal decision, obviously, taken by a different body entirely. It's maybe not a very satisfactory situation, but as a local review body, you are still free to take whatever decision you feel appropriate today in regard to this notice of review. You're not bound by that decision, but at the same time, you should be aware of it, which is why we introduced it today, and give you a chance to consider it and look at it quite carefully. You know, you've got to be aware of circumstances as they prevail at the time you make the decision. So that was the purpose of that.
Clear enough? Going to this now. Will we go to see the photos before we go through the review?
Well, thank you, Chair. Just for the avoidance of doubt, these replicate the photographs you'll find in the paper on pages 407 to 414. Now, the first picture, it's the rear elevation. So for the avoidance of doubt, this is the one that's also called the east elevation. The window that is affected here, it's a single window. It's the one at first floor level on the left-hand side. Now, you'll see in the proposal, as detailed in the report at 1.5, so that's on page 46, The replacement window would be a white painted timber double glazed sash and case to match adjacent windows. That's the information I have in relation to that. We then turn to the High Street elevation, so this is also the west elevation. The affected windows are those at first and second floor and the upper story window in the gable there. So you're looking at 11 windows in total. And again, this is in the report 1.5 on page 46. It's proposed to install 11 white double glazed UPVC casement windows to match exactly the proportions of the existing in those 11 openings to replace the existing windows. Now, in terms of the drawings you have submitted, the windows as existing are shown on page 79 of the papers, and you have the windows as proposed on page 80. The photographs of the sample material have been submitted as well, so what you're looking at is a UPVC material, but to all intents and purposes looking like timber. This is the side elevation, so you've got the east elevation on the right hand side, and it's showing the original upper windows 6/2 style that you could also see in the east elevation still in place. Then you've got the adjacent detached block to the south of Union Street, so that's obviously Burton's, Dorothy Parkin's unit, just to show the context in this part of the conservation area, and the window styles. You've then got the attached property, the application site's obviously here, the attached property to the north side of the application site, so it gives you an idea of upper story window patterns and glazing patterns in this part of the conservation area. This is from inside the old Union Street building, so it's showing the condition of the lower sash in the first floor flat as it exists at the moment. So this is looking out from the west elevation, and you can see the toll booth and the outside event area in the background. Then you've got another, slightly further along, it's a photo of the condition of the sill in the first floor flat, the same elevation.
Members, great. Have we any questions to ask about the windows? No. But number 1 is the notice of review dated 24th October 2018 and received on 25th October 2018. Have members got any questions on that? Any aspects of this? Ian?
I suppose maybe we'll come to it when we get through the paperwork, but obviously on page 12 it's shown in our papers, I think it's 12 it says, it is, they're asking for, and it's been mentioned already by Tracy, but they're asking for 2 points at number 3 and 4 in the first part 7, the review procedure. Is that something we consider now or later on? Maybe that's later on, is it, once we've been through the papers? Just probably drawing our eye to that in case we have to come back to it.
Is a report on the handling determined under delegated powers and all the related correspondence. On that one. Number 3, the observations of the appointed officer on the applicant's notice and review and further comments from interested parties, page 115. Any questions in it? None. Page 127 for comments of applicant on the observations of the appointed officer and further comments from interested parties. Has anybody got any questions on that part? Report? Nope. This one is page 135, plan and application form submitted on the 9th of March 2018, associated plans and supporting information. One is a decision letter from Dumfries and Galloway Council dated the 25th April 2008. Nothing on that. Page 185, we're having the relevant extracts from the Dumfries and Galloway Local Development Plan. This is quite a meaty one. Runs from 185 to 406. No questions? No members, anything on that? Nope. We've already seen them, the photos of the application site and the locality. No. The members got enough information to determine this today? Jane?
Yes, Chairman, I think there's quite enough information here. Seen the pictures there, and there is a lot of information in this. I'm quite happy with it. We can go and determine this now.
I think we probably have got enough information. The only thing we haven't got is, I don't think the samples, what we've got in front of us here anyways, I think it's rubbish, to say the least. I've seen better children's try to draw a picture looking better as that. But when it comes to the actual, I suppose I'll say what I really feel about it when we get into session properly. But I don't think the sample's very good. I've got more experience in regards to a PVC sash and case type replacement window, so I know what it does look like. I don't know if a site visit's absolutely relevant, but it would put it into context. But I mean, if other members think we've got enough information to determine it, I'm not going to argue with that, because I think this extra information here is quite material in my view.
It is, I've got to agree, it doesn't look much, but probably that's much what you'd see if you're looking at for the street, even to see the roughness of the thing. But as I said, that's the best you've heard from Robert, that's the best we've been able to get today. Jane?
Well, I mean, I presume again we'll go into session, but I mean, what we've got here is simply an indication. It isn't necessarily what might be accepted. I mean, that's for later on.
Right, if there's no question on this, we'll go into session. Is there anyone got any? Ian?
I didn't mind starting off, Chair, but it's good to hear the debate and hear how this goes. But when I was looking at it, some things are contrary to each other. Firstly, I would like to comment, I do think that information we've got from the reporter this morning, so we've had a paid professional look at this, examine it thoroughly, come to their conclusions. Sinead Lynch, I think is what the name is, according to this, is the actual reporter. I'm probably like-minded, I think, when I read this, but I would like to, probably it wasn't for this, I would ask for a site visit and actually see what the materials look like, because I have seen it myself, but I find it very difficult with my previous experience when you're standing back from the street level, from the high street, looking out at this, especially when you get up on the second floor, with this type of material to actually be able to tell the difference. I can't. I mean, I've tried it a number of occasions when it is quite a really good, when you get a high quality type of window, I find it very, very difficult to tell the difference. So in short term, other than going through the points that have been, the extra information that's been raised, so we're not just looking at I think we're looking at Dumfries in a whole, so we're looking at regeneration actually, and some very valid points being raised by the say appellant. I don't know if appellant's the right word, but the applicant for the review certainly in regards to it. But you've got wider regeneration, you have got the actual thermal values, the maintenance, the ongoing cost, the revenue, and the actual cost in the short term. I haven't got anything against PVC, so I'd probably minded to allow this to go through, to use the language of the appeal, but I think is it to uphold the review maybe would be our language, because I think from a distance, would it have a detrimental impact on the wider conservation area? I don't think you'd be able to tell a year from now if they were installed, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference whether they were timber, PVC or what they were. Thanks, Chair.
Jane?
Well, I think we need to be completely clear about what we're agreeing. The information from the DPEA actually is different to what is being asked for here. And I mean, I think it's the case, Chairman, that we could take into account what has happened with the DPEA and therefore change our recommendation as to not simply accept what the applicant is wanting, which is simply to say, can you use UPVC? Because that's actually not what was being asked for here. He wants UPVC, but he simply wants the same design. And the reporter has said, no, it's got to be the reporter said that in her view, more important than the material, given the circumstances in this particular issue, is the design. And I have to say that I am in total agreement with her. I can absolutely see where she's coming from. Members, it was a bit sad that we haven't panned right round, but the building that has got Ramsdens and River Island in it, literally just round the corner, is an extremely good example. It's almost exactly the same as this building we're talking about here, and it is a fantastic example of how handsome this building could look with the 12-pane windows and a proper maintenance being done on it. I suspect strongly that the reporter looked at that and thought, yes, that's really doable. Interestingly, the paint work and colour in the windows is not white. It's dark in the other building. My worry with the design that was asked for by the appellant here was actually that they were quite lumpy. You know, the design that was asked for is quite broad. It's not traditional at all. And in white, I can assure you, it would leap out at you. Notwithstanding, I understand Councillor Carruthers' expertise in this, but if it was coloured white, I think it would be very different to what it is now, which is dark and recessive colour. You wouldn't see it. My feeling, and I'm very happy to hear what other members have to say, is that we should look carefully at what the reporter has suggested.
I've got to agree with you, Jane. As I say, I was in two minds when I was reading through the report, but reading that today, it changed my mind a bit. But, as I say, it's the design of the window. I think that's more important than the actual material that's being used. As I say, but when you see the building next door, like, it's much the same, like, but as I say, that's when you see the building, it really is. As I say, I think what the reporter has said there, says you've got to take that into consideration. I think it is quite different from what was actually in the report.
Yeah, pretty much backing up what's already been said. I certainly have had a change of view in this, having received the report from the reporter. It was very much in my mind that, you know, we've got a duty to protect the historic architectural integrity of Dumfries Town Centre, and that was the balance that I was using, was that particular aim against the insulation and environmental elements of the debate here. And I think we have to give a degree of weight to the views of the reporter. And I would be happy to move in the direction of the findings of the reporter on this.
Right. And then?
Yeah, well, I think the main point is, I mean, I'm coming from Ian's point of view as well in this, in the sense that, you know, UPVC, it can be used in any colour, actually. You can have any colour of that in plastic. And I'm looking at the design on this, on the windows that are existing, you know, the profiles in these are exactly the same as the profiles on the proposed, actually. So as far as I'm concerned, you know, I don't really see any problems with UPVC as a replacement on this. And as I said, you can get, you know, the colour schemes can be changed. You know, years ago, UPVC was very chunky. The profiles was always bigger as a normal wooden window, but this design here, like, it's just identical. And as I already stated here in section 9, actually, it'd be very difficult to see the difference from the high street.
Right, is any other member any other comments? Hello. Right, so.
Chair, just a question that you've got the listed building consent appeal decision, and that obviously is subject to a condition stipulating a particular window type, which is different to the one that's in front of you today. Now, there's a fine line between imposing a condition that's tantamount to a refusal of the application and something that's different to what's in front of you. and a fine line between that and a condition that's imposed to make an unacceptable development acceptable. And I'm very much reading the listed building consent decision as being the conditions imposed, the principles accepted, but the conditions imposed to try and get an acceptable window type in terms of design and proportions. I think the issue with the materials being accepted, that the reporters found that to be acceptable. So the only question I have, Chair, is I hear that the majority are supporting an approval of the planning permission. The question is, would you be minded to impose a similar condition to the one that the reporter has in the listed building consent appeal? That was really my only question. And obviously, the grounds for the decision, is this a departure from the development plan, or do you think it complies with the terms of the development plan?
If that had been in the actual report, it would have made a difference. But as I say, just what Robert said, I would propose that we give permission, but on the design that the reporter has intimated in his report. Jane?
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, I'm entirely in agreement with you. I would have resisted it had the design not been changed.
Jane.
Absolutely, clearly, because I do understand what members are saying, but in all honesty, this is not absolutely the same. If it was in white, I do assure you, it would look lumpy and different to what is being proposed through the condition. I find that the condition that the reporter has suggested makes basically an unacceptable proposal, which is out with our policies, acceptable under the circumstances and in this particular issue.
Ian?
Well, just a comment as a reflecting, because I've got sympathy with actually both with the appellant and what's been said by yourselves and the other members. But when I look at that there, you're looking at it, and if I think we've got enough information to say that these windows are knackered, is a simple way of putting it, and they're beyond the point of repair. So if we accept that, but if they were to be refurbished, you're looking at it for another 50 or 60 years, and that's what's going through my mind. Can the applicants ask, listen, can I just replace like for like, but using a different material, pretty much? Now, if they were to be refurbished, then they weren't at that state of disrepair. That's what could have used a bit ahead. I think without any permissions needed or anything like that, just fix the windows, and maybe even possibly could have, don't know. But if it, like I say, the arguments have been put, the reviews in, and it's actually in front of us. But so I've got sympathy for both. But I mean, I think ultimately that's what you're looking at. I think that's pretty much what you get, apart from maybe the colour difference. But yeah, I think it would blend in. Actually, have less of an impact. The black actually makes it stand out. It's almost like a mascara, you could say. Yep. Yep. So I do think it's. I'm happy enough with the actual what's been asked for with the review. But I hear and there's 3 people. Certainly, so there's a majority already, but I mean, I'm content that, but I do think we're coming to the right conclusion one way or another, because we're allowing us to go ahead using a plastic material. But I mean, I'm not to be controversial, Chair, but I mean, I think just to actually, so I probably await it, I sit on the side of actually what's in front of us here. I would move that we actually allow this review to go forward. Is it uphold the reverse, so it upholds obviously for the original. I would move it that we actually reverse the previous decision, Chair.
I've got the sympathy. I know what you're going to, Ian. Like, as I say, I think if it hadn't been in the conservation area and that, I'd have probably been more sympathetic to what the actual reporter is saying. That's why we go with that.
Can I just ask, and going back, because I am first time I come across it, still a wee bit confused. So if again, the motion that I put forward was to be agreed, and it's different from what the other motion is, but how would that affect with the listed building consent? Because they're at odds with each other. It is a wee bit complicated, Chair.
What you're arriving at here is a decision on the planning permission, and from what I'm hearing is all of the LRB members are minded to reverse that decision. So today you're minded to grant planning permission for this proposal. What I'm not totally sure about is, and this is the decision you'll arrive at, is whether you're going to impose a condition or not, and if so, is that going to be very similar to the listed building consent one? I'm wondering if you want to introduce something about colour as well, because there sounds to be support for a dark recessive colour to be used instead of a white colour. But it has no influence at all on the listed building consent. That they're 2 separate things under 2 separate parts of legislation. Now, you need both to proceed in this case, because if you went ahead and just thought, great, I'm going to implement my listed building consent, now I've got it, and you didn't have planning permission, then potentially you could be liable for enforcement action against you. So it's a two-step process. Sometimes you need listed building consent without planning permission. Other times it's the opposite. But they're two separate regimes. But in a case like this, where it's listed building and you need permission, you need to assemble both. So to my mind, it makes sense to, have compatible conditions if you're minded to grant permission today.
Yep. Jane?
It strikes me that the reporter's conditioning is that it's to be 6 over 6, 12 panes. They don't comment particularly about colour, and I would suggest that that's up to our planning authority to agree, which is what is in that condition. I think if we were to accept the condition, it would mean that it is quite possible to come to some arrangement, the appellant to come to an arrangement with the planning authority as to colour. But it is very clear what the design is to be.
For the sake of my motion, if I get a second, but if you just look and take it out of the context, see the building next door, you can see that's what I'd be looking at. I think that's what's been proposed, so you're looking at white, so I would have that as a condition.
And I notice it's for sale though. If they came up to change it, then maybe we have the same issues.
Sorry, say that again?
It's up for sale. If somebody else took it over and they wanted to replace the windows, you don't know. Maybe go back to it.
No,
it's a circumstantial light, but I don't think you can use it as
more
a light.
I had descriptive from, if there was any conditions from my perspective, and that's how I perceive it, and I think that's what's being proposed is similar to the neighbouring property, so I'm content with that, that's what I'm saying. I'd be okay with that as a condition, so white's okay with me.
Ian, have you got a seconder for you? You got a seconder for you?
Yeah, I'll second.
Amendment?
Sorry, Ian, can I just confirm your motions to reverse the decision of the appointed officer and grant as an exception to policy? Can you just confirm what the grounds were for departing from policy?
Is that the case? If it is, I spoke about it earlier. I made the reasons why I thought that similar to actually what's contained within the reporters, the local economy, the higher levels of U-value, lower maintenance, all that type of stuff. But I don't think the material in particular, the PVC, is going to have an impact in the local the character of the buildings or that area. It will not have that negative impact what's been previously applied. I don't know if that. I know we're applying an application that we have to certainly go against. We have to justify or make an exception. But I thought that wasn't the case with LRBs, but it maybe is.
The reason I'm going against policy is because of the extra information we got this morning.
Apologies, I thought I was keeping up, but I think I'm getting a wee bit lost now. Could we just to strip this back so I'm sure what we're talking about here. We're agreeing white UPVC.
My understanding, Chairman, although it's words into your mouth, is that we are agreeing that the...
I think Ian it'll be white. Aye, it'll be white. And our one is, go with the reporter on the design of the windows, and then it's up, there'll not be a condition, but hopefully the applicant will get together with planning and come up with an acceptable colour.
Robert, can I just ask you if the motion grounds were competent for the reverse?
The way I was interpreting this was, and I know there are two different motions relating to the window type, but my view was certainly the one with the conditions similar to the listed building consent, that the view of the LRB members advancing that was that by virtue of the introduction of the condition, it made the proposal compliant with the development plan and not contrary to it. The other one, Councillor Carruthers' motion, was very much that an exception should be made to policy on a variety of grounds, and that was basically to keep, I think, the original window type proposed without imposing the 6 over 6 window type condition, which in my view was introduced to make something unacceptable acceptable in terms of the development plan. The only issue is obviously about colour. Do we have, because you're delegating this to officers in due course, and I'm just wary that if you have a strong feeling about the colour, you could put something guiding into that condition the risk is, at a later stage, you maybe see a colour you don't like installed in the windows, and it's going against what you want to do. It's just entirely at your own discretion. It's what you want to see, really, and you can impose that guidance in the condition if you wish to. That's open to you to do that.
Ian?
From my perspective, I was more content with white because I felt, to try to outline, it's more of a mascara effect. It was there, it shows, it brings out the windows actually, where actually when you look at the neighbouring, I know they could change, Chairman, but I think I prefer the white to the black and the way it stands out, and I think that's what's been proposed within the review, the original application.
I must admit, I'm not going to lose sleep over the colour. Like, it's just more or less the design that I would go with.
Chairman, I understand exactly which way the wind's blowing. Personally, I have very, very clear ideas about what things should be, but I'm quite prepared to leave it to the officer and the appellant.
Okay, so we have a motion by Ian Crothers, seconded by Ronnie Tate. Oh, yours is the motion. Sorry. So the motion is by the chairman, seconded by Jane. And that is to approve the application with the conditions taken in place from the appeal decision, and for the colour to be left to the officer and the applicant.
You don't need to say anything, it's clear in the condition.
Just in the condition from the reporter.
Yeah.
And we have an amendment by Ian Crothers, seconded by Ronnie Tate, to reverse the decision and approve the application in its original state by that it's sympathetic and not damaging to the historic character and appearance of the listed building and conservation area.
That's enough as that. I mean, the town centre regeneration, I think, is material as well. I don't think it's got a massive impact, but there's wider aspects away from but I don't think it's got a big impact on the local character and setting. I don't think you can tell the difference. It'll be an improvement actually, but it's subject to interpretation, I would say.
Okay. Okay, so I'll just go to the vote. Chairman?
Motion.
Dougie Campbell?
Motion.
Ian Crothers?
Amendment.
Jane Maitland?
Motion.
And Ronnie Tate?
Amendment.
And the motion carries 3 votes to 2.
This piece of business is a notice of review. Item 5, notice of review, refusal of planning permission in principle for the erection of a dwelling house at Hill of Burns, Hill Street, Creetown. Planning reference number 17/2003/BIP. Anything there? The notes?
Thanks, Chair. So within your papers you've got the notice of review, the report on handling and related correspondence, the observations of the appointed officer on the applicant's agent's notice of review, planning application form, associated plans and supporting information, the decision letter from Dumfries and Galloway Council, relevant extracts from the local development plan and the photos of the application site. The grounds for refusal are that the proposed development fails to meet any of the relevant criteria in Dumfries and Galloway Local Development Plan Policy H3, which only permits the erection of new houses in the countryside in particular circumstances, and none of these circumstances apply in this case. As such, the proposal would be contrary to the provisions of the development plan as stated in Dumfries and Galloway Local Development Plan Policy H3 and adopted supplementary guidance on housing in the countryside. Furthermore, the proposal is contrary to Policy H4, which only applies that where there is a shortfall in the effective 5-year housing land supply in the housing market area and no shortfall has been identified. The applicant has requested that the review be dealt with on the basis of an assessment of the review documents only with no further procedure. And the grounds stated within the notice of review are, in summary: 1. The proposed dwelling house could easily be contained within the site by the applicant as very minor deviation from the Creetown development boundary as set out in the Council's local development plan. 2. The proposed site is within the previously described Creetown boundary set out in the local development plan and is offered as a less challenging site when compared to the previously approved site referred to by application reference 13P 20277. The site offers an opportunity which will be less challenging to the setting of the adjacent listed building, Hill of Burns, in terms of proximity, access and provision of services and amenity ground. 4. The site is not subject to any flood risk and is favoured with an existing access. The site will provide an opportunity to create a detached property within Creetown which has very few opportunities of this type contained within the development boundary. 5. The earlier previous approval, reference 13P20277, granted subject to conditions, was not continued by an application for the approval of matters specified in conditions and so lapsed. Since the award of that plan permission, the indicative town boundary for Creetown has been changed and the grounds of Hill of Burns have been removed from within the town boundary. 6. The proposed plot is modest in size and would not adversely affect the setting of the Hill of Burns house. Whilst the site would need up to 4 trees to be felled to create useful space, it would still remain enclosed within mature woodland without impacting on the existing house. The proposed site would share a boundary with the Hill of Burns access road running from Hill Street. The access to Hill of Burns would form the shared access to the site. The site should be seen as contiguous to the 2 plots adjacent to the lodge and would result in a minor redefinition of the town boundary at this location. It could be seen that this site offers an infill opportunity between the sites adjacent to the lodge and properties off High Road to the west of the site. The relocation of an opportunity for the applicant to this site alleviates any lingering concerns regarding flood risk from the ballot burn and access associated with the previous Hill of Burns application. You have further comments from interested parties, a list of the local development plan policies. The main issues for the local review body to consider is: does the proposal conform with the relevant development plan policies? In particular, would the proposal meet any of the relevant criteria set out in LDP policy H3? Does the proposal accord with LDP policy H4? If the proposal is considered to represent a departure from the terms of the relevant development plan policies, are there any material considerations which would indicate that planning permission should be granted as an exception to policy? How much weight should be given to the previous planning application decision reference 13P20277, which has since lapsed as unimplemented? Would the proposal represent a very minor departure to the terms of the LDP and a better outcome than the previous application, such that permission should be granted as an exception to the terms of the local development plan? And the local review body has the same options available as the previous case.
Thank you, Tracy. This is page 417, the notice of review dated 5th of November 2018, submitted by Mr A. Patterson, agent, on behalf of Mr R. J. Mackenzie, applicant, and received 7th of November 2018. Any questions on that? Nope. Page 435, report on the handling determined under delegated powers and related correspondence. Nothing. Members? Before we go, can we see the photos?
Yeah.
Members are okay with members?
Absolutely, Chair. This is a view, it's allocation plan, it shows the settlement boundary as set out in the Council's present local development plan. So that was the one that was adopted in September 2014. The previous development plan for this area comprised the Wigtown local plan, or was it the Stewartry local plan? It was one of the two, but they predated this, and you had the structural plan as well. So that was the situation prior to September 2014. This is the location plan. You can see the application site in red there. The location plan shows the settlement boundary, the dark black line, and that replicates what's shown in the Council's present local development plan. Application site is to the right-hand side of the shared access drive you can see there. You can see the town of Creetown at a lower level and Wigtown Bay beyond. This is opposite direction. The application site is to the left-hand side of the shared access drive, so you can notice the wooded character of the area. And that's the application site itself looking towards it from that shared access drive. That's the application site from the north looking towards Hill of Burns House. And again, this is from similar direction. From the north, showing Hill of Burns House and the embankment to the high road, which you can see in the location plan to the right-hand side there. Closer view of the application site itself. And this is showing the entrance to the shared access drive that you saw in the previous pictures from Hill Street in Creetown. This is the approach to the site from the north on the shared access drive. And you can see in this picture the application site on the left-hand side. This is from the high road looking south. And you can see the main settlement of Creetown on the right-hand side. This is kind of opposite directions. The application site's on the right-hand side from the high road. Now it says this is looking south, but I'm fairly sure this is looking north. So you can see the embankment there. And that's looking into the distance. This is a plan showing the current and the previous application sites with the present settlement boundary and the conservation area boundaries. So to disentangle this, you've got the conservation area boundary in the kind of purpley colour. Settlement boundary in the LDP is in black. You have the present application site, the application that's in front of you and being considered today, in red. And you have the 2013 application 13P2277 outlined in green. Sure, absolutely. This. Mm-hmm. Yes, because my understanding was the settlement boundary was adjusted to contain, if you like, to absorb that permission. I'm not 100% sure because it hasn't been absolutely clarified to me, but I think that is the case, yes. And you also have a plan here showing the current and the previous application sites and the area previously within the settlement boundary of the Wigtown local plan. It was the Wigtown local plan, not the Stewartshire one. So you can see the difference here being that crosshatch blue area as previously being within the Wigtown local plan boundary. That obviously absorbs the 2013 planning permission in principle site. And I know this is a different location, but it shows that both of these sites were within the settlement boundary previously, and that changed in September 2014 when the new LDP as it was then came in.
Any members got any other questions on the vote? No. There were nothing on to 449, observations of the appointed officer over on the applicant's agent's notice of review. Flying through that. Yep. Page 457, plan application form submitted the 1st of November 2017, associated plans and supporting information. Nothing in that. Decision letter from Dumfries and Galloway Council, dated the 22nd August 2018. Nothing. Page 479, relevant extracts from the Dumfries and Galloway Local Development Plan. And page 499, we've just seen the photos of the application site and the locality. The members got enough information to make a decision today? Yep. Right, we're in session then. Is there anything, Ian?
Just, so I'm looking at page 438, Robert, and there's a whole 437 actually, and 38, and the history of the plan applications on here. Can you just remind us what's actually in relation directly to this site? Have you got that information? Because there's sun houses, there's different things here, but I mean, this actual particular site itself seems like it's had a permission before. I don't know how many times it's in, looking at every single one, but have you got that? If you've not got that information, fair enough, but if you've got that, it'd be of interest.
Chair, I would comment, looking at the planning history, working our way backwards on page 438, you've got the 171125 PIP application. Now that site was the same as the 2013 application, so that was the larger site outlined in green that you saw on the slides. I'll probably go back to that's the site you can see there. So that was the application site for both 171125 PIP, which was withdrawn by the applicant on the basis of the advice received from the case officer, and that replicated the 13P2277 site. The 00P545 is fairly minor. It was a retrospective application for summer housing decking, so kind of householder development. The previous one, the 95 permission, that was again permission in principle for erection of dwelling house and construction of septic tank at Hill of Burns. I can't say with certainty the location of that one. It was obviously in the vicinity of the application site you have here. I don't have any record of having been succeeded by an approval of reserved matters application, so I'm assuming those are both, that one and the 92 permission are both unspent and expired. You've then got the 91P1248 planning permission for residential development comprising 5 dwelling houses and garages. Now, as I said in the presentation, my interpretation of that is the same as Councillor Maitland's. That was located in that area, and that was the reason why there's that, what appears to be an anomaly in the settlement boundary. It was changed to accommodate that area. And it hasn't been taken back. But as far as I can see, that's obviously unspent as well. I don't know if that helps, but there is quite a planning history there. Beyond that, I mean, going over the page to 437, the 1980s permission records, I haven't looked at those at all. But I mean, again, they're so old, they're about 30 years old now, they carry very little weight.
Members? We've got to find the plan officer's decision, correct decision.
I can't see any particular reason to go against it. No.
We went through, not seen any nothing relevant's been raised against his decision.
I would agree with that. I can't find any material reasons to make an exception that's been put in front of us.
That's fine. You got that, Tracy?
Yes, the members have decided to uphold the decision of the appointed officer and refuse planning permission.
And as I have no other further business deemed urgent, no need to make a decision on anything. So I thank you all for coming here today and welcome you all to the planning meeting tomorrow.